Welcome to ICT on PNC, a periodic podcast that is produced by the Insurance Council of Texas. Today's host is Albert Betts, Executive Director of the Insurance Council of Texas, and his guest is Mr. Charles Morgan, who's the co-founder of ScreeCred, which is an app that you can use to help build up your credit. They have a discussion on insurance issues that are going on in Texas, as well as what is going on at ScreeCred and what they're doing to help communities. Please welcome our guest, Charles Morgan, and now here is Albert Betts, your host.
Good morning. I'm joined today by my esteemed guest, Mr. Charles Morgan. I'm Albert Betts, Executive Director, Insurance Council of Texas. We're going to have an interesting conversation about insurance and credit scoring and helping communities and Charles's passion. We might get off a little bit into East Texas, which we've discussed before, deep East Texas, not just East Texas, but deep East Texas. But I know, Charles, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
And I know you're located in Houston, and we talked last week, but how are things going post Beryl?
Wow. Before I start, definitely want to send thoughts and prayers out to those who were affected and those who with lingering effects. For me personally, we lost power for approximately 36 hours, about 36 hours. And I will say this, it did warm up pretty quick. Kind of as the storm passed by. Neighborhood wise, fences down, roof damage. Me personally, not so much damage to the fence, a little bit of a tree, but very fortunate, but definitely thoughts and prayers going out for those who were affected in the storm.
Yeah, it's glad your power's back. I know I had relatives who were without power as of at least through 4 or 5 days afterwards. They were not happy. I could read their comments, but glad power's back. I know trees and fences and roofs. Glad to just hear everybody safe and doing well with you and yours. And so I appreciate you making time. I know you're busy man, but I want to talk a bit about the work you're doing. We probably met, Charles, maybe a year or so ago.
Yes.
I think, and start talking about what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, ScreeCred, your co-founder, as I understand it.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about you and ScreeCred, and then we'll get into more details on what you're working on and the good work you're trying to do.
Yes, sir. My name is Charles Morgan. I'm one of those co-founders at ScreeCred. I have to give a shout out to Prairie View A&M. That's MBA from PV.
Okay.
ScreeCred in itself, it's just the history and the nature of it culminates from some life events and also a project working on it with a good friend of mine in Houston by the name of Mr. Richard Sealine. I know you're familiar with Richard. So
I know Richard very well. I had a 30-minute conversation with Richard, and that's short by Richard standards. Last week when I was driving up to Dallas. He says hello, by the way.
He does say hello. Yes. So in life, I remember like it was yesterday. I remember going to engineering school, driving between Lufkin, Texas and Beaumont, Texas. 5 kids, family, trying to get finished with engineering school, trying to cut costs where I could, and I know one of the largest costs was insurance, and seeing that expense and trying to avoid it. I'm just being totally honest with you, trying to avoid it. Going to school, paying for the gas, and both ways, 2-hour drive. Just wanted to mention that, and thinking to myself, I really got to get this schooling done. I really want, to do more, do better for my family. But in the same sense, driving without insurance, I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to go to jail. And I remember driving to Beaumont one morning. It was just real quiet morning, a little bit of fog, and I was thinking, I was like, wow, just trying to get to school, and I don't want to get pulled over. It wasn't even 5 minutes later, lights behind me, and I'm like, oh, here we go. So To make a long story short, I did get pulled over, but it was an officer, actually state trooper, nicest state trooper. I could say. Well, I'm not assuming that there's anything like that, but this gentleman was very nice, and he explained to me the importance of insurance, and he gave me a break. I'm not going to say his name. I remember his name. Well, he gave me a break, so I remember that, and thinking how the insurance and just having that feeling and needing a break, and fast forward that to working on a project with Richard, Hurricane Harvey. We're doing some research and trying to understand why there was a lack of resiliency and really in the Black community when it
Mhm.
came to disasters, and what are some things that the causes. And we found that it was insurance and affordability, and that really struck a nerve, and because of my past experience, and hey, how can I help? What can I do? And then also looking at some things that were happening that happened in Washington State with Commissioner Creeler. And I'm like, hey, how can we create a product in the insurance industry that can assist individuals with building their credit score, right? And
Right.
helping those individuals. So that's where ScreeCred originated from. That was the beginning of figuring out how we can help those in the insurance industry, not just the consumer, but the carrier as well.
Interesting your story about being young and not having insurance, because let's just say I've heard of people, maybe me at some point when I was younger, because you don't understand the importance of one, you don't understand the importance of insurance, and when you're looking at no matter what it costs, you're trying to figure out, well, what do I have to have versus what can I do without? And you make that decision to do without insurance, take that risk of getting but I'm condoning it, but I know people take
I
that
understand.
risk of not doing it, not having the coverage. But I think as you we'll talk a little bit later, as you get into the business and understand it, you do understand why you need to cover that risk for yourself, because the cost, if you don't, could be well beyond anything you can afford to take care of. So you start ScreeCred post Harvey. You're looking at how do I help those with less than perfect credit scores
Yes.
that might be impacting their ability to not necessarily get coverage, but to pay for a coverage and a affordable coverage. As credit scoring, we're well aware, is used by insurers, and it may impact what your rate is. It may be a discount for some. It may be an additional cost for others. So what do you try to do within ScreeCred to address that for those? I'm going to put it two ways. One, that maybe don't understand insurance,
Hmm.
because I'll tell you a story, and I may have shared with you before at a university visit a few years back. We were talking about insurance. This is one of the schools that we did scholarships with. And I'm talking to an insurance class, and we're asking about their perceptions of insurance. These are 20, 21-year olds. And somebody says, you know, having taken the insurance courses, they now understood it and what mattered. But
Right.
beforehand, within their own family, they all, and I'm quoting here, they all thought of insurance as a quote scam.
Scam. Yeah.
And I said, why do you think it's a scam? And the answer was, well, you pay this money, blah, blah, blah. But then I tried to explain, but if you pay whatever it is uh, per year worth of premium and your car, I think it was auto this person was talking about,
Hmm.
your car gets totaled, how much does that car cost to replace? I said, stop and think about it that way.
Absolutely.
Uh, you can't afford not to have the insurance, even though you think you can't afford it, because if you don't have it, here's what happens. And there's a risk, we went into the whole explanation about the pool of risk and blah, blah, blah. But the person in class understood it at that point. But this notion, this misunderstanding about how insurance works, I know you're doing some effort to try to educate
Absolutely.
consumers about that, while you're also trying to work and educate how do I help you turn your credit, whatever credit resource you have, how do you turn that into a positive? So expound on that a little bit for us.
Absolutely. On the ScreeCred platform, users can expect to see credit education as well as insurance education. And yes, I've seen the TikToks. I've seen the TikToks. But actually, some of them went viral. Like insurance is a scam, and we know 100% sure that is not true, right?
Hmm.
And being, and especially when you've been in a situation, an accident, et cetera, and needed to file a claim, and you needed someone who could promptly file a claim, get the paperwork together, and get the vehicle fixed. So, especially someone is having to go to work, needing a needing a rental car, et cetera.
Right.
All of that culminates into something that an individual would want to see promptly and be taken care of. So insurance is definitely a necessity. From a credit education perspective and understanding. See, we conducted a credit analysis survey, and we noticed that
Okay.
um, from about 550 to about 730 individuals still would like to build their credit score. So we wanted to dig a little deeper and understand why individuals were below 550, why there was disinterest there, right? And was it the education? Was it just there's nothing, that they felt like there was no help out there? But for us, just in conversation, it was just saying, hey, we understand your situation. Here's some tools to educate yourself. Here's some levers that you can definitely pull in terms of building your credit score. And that's what ScreeCred is. ScreeCred is a tool, a lever that an individual could utilize, especially someone who would be considered thin credit or
Hmm.
have no credit, and looking to establish credit as a tool to establish and build their credit score as a tool.
What about within the industry? I know you're talking to credit bureaus, industry folks. Tell us what some of those conversations, what have those conversations been like? Are you getting any, sense of cooperation, or are people skeptical?
I would say this mix. Let's start with the consumer. Let's start with the consumer.
Okay. Okay.
I remember times just being in Home Depot and just asking a question, say, hey, what if you could build your credit score utilizing your auto insurance premium payments? Wow, that's an excellent idea. And that was typically about 95% of the conversations that I had from the consumer perspective. The carrier perspective, a little mixed, a little mixed. Some carriers been quoted, hey, this is an excellent idea. This is an
Hmm.
excellent idea. And seeing the product and seeing how it can help. And then those conversations have mainly been in non-standard, I would say, on the non-standard side of auto insurance carriers. In the bureaus, great conversations in the bureaus, NDAs in place, having conversations, working on getting things figured out.
Okay. 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 So what's your goal, Charles, ultimately with this? What would you like to see in the end if everything works
Wow.
out perfect? What
Wow.
does Charles Morgan's ScreeCred world look like?
Wow. I would say for us as a platform, as a company, just looking at those metrics and looking at really and truly one of the driving factors for me is the credit and wealth gap, and looking at tangible results and seeing how street credit impacted the credit and wealth gap in America,
Hmm.
right? And but also from an insurance perspective, seeing those individuals through that education and getting feedbacks, and then the understanding that yes, insurance is not a scam. This is how it helps. This is the partnerships. This from a help build and broaden that carrier consumer relationship. Just seeing those things on a positive note.
What about we talk a lot about auto. Any work on homeowners as well, because or even renters insurance.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
have a son who lives in an apartment, and I have to, even though he works in the industry, I have
yes,
to remind him, make sure you got renters insurance.
yeah.
Because it's just that he has the awareness, but it's the connection between, I need to spend a few dollars to protect my valuables. What about homeowners, renters? Are you just focusing on auto? Or is it across all personal lines?
Right now, the focus primarily is on auto, but we can this focus the next shift focus will be to the rental insurance payments because it's just as critical, just as critical.
Oh, cool. Well, tell me about your background, East Texas. So Texas born and raised. I know you went to PV.
Yeah,
Kind of what part of East Texas? We've had this conversation before our listeners, so they know you are true dyed in the wool Texan all the
yeah,
way through. So
yes. So if with that being said, I have to bring up red dirt. I have to
I know what.
I have to say that. Bring us some red dirt.
uh,
Yes, I grew up a little small town on Highway 69 called Alto, Texas. Played high school football, high school baseball. Was in some state championships, didn't
mm,
win any. So it's growing up on a farm. My dad was a mechanic and a farmer. So
okay.
his, let's best of both worlds. I remember working, helping him out in his shop all day, and then that evening we needed to go get the tractor and plow the field. So and being on the tractor until sundown.
Hmm.
And sometimes it was late because we had to feed the pigs and a lot of things like that. So there was you could always stay busy on a farm. I would say that, and it could really open your eyes and to really as growing up as a young man,
Yeah,
understand some things you need to do to provide for yourself.
that's funny. You started with the red dirt. Yeah, and as I've explained to you, I didn't have to grow up on a farm. I was the first generation
Okay.
out of deep East Texas in Dallas, but my parents, my uncles, aunts, everybody from a little small town, Fairfield, Texas,
Yeah,
and Buffalo, Texas. And so visiting, I know all about the red dirt. In fact, I think I may not have shared with you. I know, as my grandparents used to say, and I don't know if this is true or not. You may have heard the same thing. Um, it didn't hurt for you to eat a little dirt. Uh, it would actually supposedly make you healthier or stronger. I never tried it, but I remember growing up hearing that about the East Texas area. So it's some stories down there. Let's. I know you're at our. We had our symposium
yes.
last week. You were there. I hope you had some good conversations with
Okay.
folks. I saw you making connections and talking, but you also heard some of what's going on in this industry and what's driving things, what's driving rates in particular. I just share with you. I just looked at my homeowners. Uh, Monthly withdrawal in my mortgage statement, and I forgot my homeowners went up that much, and
Okay.
so we're
Okay. You gotta
we're
account
all
for that.
yeah, we're all dealing with it.
Yes.
But I think what you're doing, it sounds like you at least help those. They can find a way to take whatever credit they have because
Yes.
um, and work with that. It might give them some relief, even, or at least help them find more affordable uh, insurance, even in this higher cost market, but at least keep that cost from going up even more so. So
Yes.
I think it's a worthy cause. I told you because Richard Sealine actually uh, connected us, but I
Yes.
said you're doing some good work there, Charles, to try to help people navigate insurance because as we started with this, people don't understand it often. It's a mystery, and it's why have to have it until you need it, and then all of a sudden you're glad you have it.
Yes.
So I appreciate you working to try to help those who, for whatever financial reason, may need some help to at least be able to look at some alternatives for insurance coverage. Because I know there's markets out there for uh, no credit, bad credit, etc.
Yes.
But to the extent you can help get people access to other carriers who may be using a credit score, if they can find a way to get their credit score
Yes.
a little bit better, I think that's some good effort and good for consumers and good for companies. It increases their customer base. So,
Absolutely.
uh, but
And
what if you had one final thing to say to the insurance audience? Our members are carriers, but we also have reinsurers as associates and other folks. What kind of your parting shot as you thoughts you'd like to leave them with moving forward?
wow. First, would like to say thank you for the conversations that we are having, right? Thank you for those conversations. Thank you for the education, the enlightenment, from those conversations. And you touched on it. And for us, one of the primary factors that we would like to address from a carrier standpoint, excuse me, from a carrier standpoint, is the retention, especially in non-standard.
Mhm.
Help with the retention, with retention, you see relief in your loss ratios. So building customer bases, helping you with retention, helping you stick your customers, hang around a lot longer. And also through that, for us, we've had conversations, we've entered into partnership with Pinnacle Actuarial. They've been very helpful, and we're looking at ways from a non-standard perspective to take that data, to take that payment data, that data set, add some loss data, some claim data,
Mhm.
and create a viable model, and specifically tailored to non-standard auto, right? To help them make better decisions, right? Better decisions, lowering the cost. And again, this product is to help the industry as a whole, the industry as a whole.
Well, great, Charles. I know you're on LinkedIn. Uh, any other social media where we can contact you or folks can contact you if they want to learn more?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I appreciate talking to you. Good as always. See you.
Absolutely.
Glad you have recovered post barrel. Keep our fingers crossed. There won't be any more hurricanes this year because we have not even hit the peak of the
Nope.
season. But
I think I seen something where it was like we have what 85, 90% of the season left. Wow.
mhm. Yeah, it's a lot to go. So I'm hopeful. Fingers crossed. Whatever you need to cross, just cross it and
Yes,
hope
sir.
there's no more storms. So
Yes, sir.
with that, I'd like to conclude my conversation with Mr. Charles Morgan of ScreeCred.
Thank you.
Appreciate his time, his wisdom, his efforts, and we'll be keeping in touch. Keep us updated, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you
All
so
right,
much. Thank you.
have a good one.
This has been a production of the Insurance Council of Texas, Austin, Texas. All rights are reserved. Copyright 2024.